Mr. Chair, I'm just sitting here listening to all the so-called options here, and it reminds me of something I read in the paper about the definition of insanity, and doing the same things over and over and over again and expecting a different result. How many times has a property tax, or how many times has a sales tax been brought before the voters of Oregon and failed? 10 times? I share your concern. How many times do you want to run a levy or an operating levy through for a library system? And the likelihood of it passing now is even worse, in my view, than it was before, simply because $198 million school bonds were passed in the Medford School District, and they have no idea of what the effect is going to be, because as increments of those bonds are sold, so goes their tax rate up, and it'll be going up for about 3 years. And, you know, if you look at, I get accused of looking at the past. I'm going to tell you everything we've got here in this county was based around a timber-based economy. And there's only a number of ways that you can fund the library system that we have. I happen to believe I'd like to see the existing library system funded. And if we could fund that through the timber industry and recreating an industry or supporting this so-called Robertson plan, we can have the best of everything we want. Right now, we either can raise the value of property in Jackson County, and we have the ability to do that, but there's opposition to doing that. Those who moved here seem to want to say, I'm here now, but I don't want to see anybody else move here to raise the value. So then we have an increase or an additional income tax. We have additional sales tax capabilities. Or we can go back to something we knew that worked. It built the buildings across the street. It's built almost every capital project in this county, and was for years the biggest industry we have, and we don't have to go that far into that industry to create a lot more revenues than we're getting right now through our hands put out, waiting for the federal government to make a decision. But all you have to do is go back and look at the original intent of the LNC lands. It was to sell off those lands to the private sector, and therefore create the revenues and the taxation necessary for the counties to operate. There's opposition to doing that. The president put half of the money in his budget this year, and it was based around the sale of federal lands. The new proposal being presented by the ONC is called the Robertson Plan. We would not be waiting 4 or 5 years for an industry to get started again. We would only be waiting long enough for some huge trust, retirement trust, and we're all familiar with those people now. They're looking for lands that will increase in value. Timber lands are just that, and if they're privately managed, it's managed a lot better than the federal government has ever done. Oh, and we can give you examples of that here in this county. We could go back in there, and within 2 years, we could have 4 trust funds set up that could create, just off of the interest of those trust funds, enough money to operate this county and the 18 ONC counties. Nobody wants to support it. I find it real difficult to keep on pounding your head against the wall and saying, taxpayers pay more money. They're saying, no, we will not. I don't care. Whatever I've heard today is nothing still but a Band-Aid. If you want a total library system like we got now, somebody's got to come up with $8, $9 million a year. It's not going to come from the taxpayers right now. And if it did, it would take 2 or 3 years. If we had some kind of a bridging fund, and the 190 idea is a way of getting through some of that CW was talking about, why are we not going back into a renewable resource type industry, that we don't have to sell the timber? We're not in the timber business, but the private sector would set up these trust funds and we could live off of it. And we could do that within maybe 2 years. We'd have to have federal approval, federal agreement, and we're not getting that. You just mentioned selling one piece of federal land, and the environmental extremist groups go bananas. Do they like libraries open? maybe they do. If they want them open, we're gonna have to create a revenue source of about $10 million a year to be assured we're gonna keep the present system going. If you want something less than what we have, then I'd suggest you pass some kind of a tax carryover. But the answers are out there. It's just that nobody wants to support it.